Imagine a man who thinks he truly understands women. He studies their moods, their words. He believes he reads beneath the surface. But Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychologist, cautioned that this apparent mastery can become a trap, a psychological curse. He didn't mean misunderstanding women. He warned of something far more dangerous, seeing too clearly as a projection of our own psyche. Jung taught that every man carries within him an anima, an unconscious feminine essence. This inner feminine often becomes a lens, a filter, through which men view real women. What they see isn't her, but a reflection of his own needs, fears, ideals. He said that love is often just projection, shaped not by who she is, but what his soul demands her to be. The more a man believes he knows women, the deeper his anima may be projecting fantasy onto reality. Jung went further. He suggested that a particularly beautiful woman can unconsciously terrify a man, because beauty stirs deeper layers, archetypes, ideals, which may lead not to fulfillment, but disappointment. As a rule, a beautiful woman is a terrible disappointment, Jung once wrote. It's as if high expectations set us up to see failure, not humanity. He also pointed out that women often acknowledge their duality, their inner contradictions, while many men remain blinded by intellect and rationalization, unable to learn through insight. That blindness makes projection even more likely. Intellect builds stories, narratives, theories, and mistakes them for understanding. Jung emphasized that the real danger isn't mystery. He said that men invent illusions when they mistake projection for truth. In his view, women are not just mysterious beings. They awaken hidden parts of a man's unconscious. But if a man believes he has penetrated that mystery, he may stop asking questions and begin to see only what reinforces his anima. In some of Jung's reflections, he noted that women, through their introspective nature, often pursue truth within themselves. They journey inward with curiosity and self-awareness. That internal quest, Jung believed, connects women to an inner microscope, transforming despair into understanding. Men, if they remain inside their intellectual constructs without reflecting inward, risk missing what's alive inside her and inside themselves. This brings us to the curse he warned about. Not that men cannot know women, but that they may believe they do, when in reality, they know only their own inner scripts. That perceived clarity can be a prison because it prevents growth. A man becomes convinced he reads her mind, but he's reading his projections. So, what's the light side of this? Jung's process of individuation, welcoming the unconscious, acknowledging our projections, integrating shadow and anima, leads to genuine connection and clarity. Real understanding begins with an awareness that your inner world shapes your view of others. When projection is recognized, real relationship becomes possible. You begin to see her as she is, not as an echo of your longings. Jung believed individuation healed illusions. You meet reality rather than your dreams, and that liberates authentic encounter, not fantasy. Jung also spoke about despair. Men more than women are prone to losing hope when they become psychologically unbalanced. Women, he said, can find comfort through connection. Men may fall into despair if they deny the anima voice within. Ignoring that inner feminine, believing you don't need introspection, can leave you isolated even when you seem strong. So that is the paradox. In trying to master understanding, a man may suffocate it. Clarity becomes blindness. He sees patterns, narratives become fixed, and he stops listening. He fears vulnerability, refuses his softer side, expects to conquer rather than understand. But when you soften your posture, admit you don't fully know, invite mystery, question what you believe you see, you let real understanding in. You stop reading her through your anima, and you start meeting her truly. Jung's warning becomes a guide. The curse is believing you understand, but the gift is knowing you might not. And maybe that's where the story really begins, not with mastery, but with humility. Because understanding isn't about having the answers. It's about listening without needing to fix, observe without possessing, and being willing to meet another human being without armor. Jung wasn't warning men to fear women. He was urging them to look inward, to recognize that what they're often chasing is not a woman at all, but a mirror. When a man sees a woman only through the shape of his longing, he doesn't see her. He sees a reflection of the love he didn't receive, the mother he yearned for, the muse he imagined. That's not love. That's need. And Carl Jung knew that this is where many men lose themselves, not in the mystery of a woman, but in the illusion they've built around her. But when a man starts to notice the stories he's telling, when he sees that his fascination, his frustration, even his heartbreak, might be revealing more about him than her, something changes. That's when the real work begins. Not fixing her, not understanding her, but slowly, gently, uncovering the truths buried inside himself. Jung called this individuation, a coming home to the self, and that path is messy. It's not about becoming a perfect man who always says the right thing or never feels afraid. It's about becoming real, whole, integrated, able to hold both strength and softness, desire and patience, clarity and confusion. Because if you're always looking outward, trying to solve the puzzle of the opposite sex, you miss the invitation. The invitation isn't to conquer her complexity, it's to face your own. The anima, the inner feminine, doesn't just whisper about love or tenderness. She challenges a man to feel, to slow down, to unlearn the armor that's kept him distant from his own soul. And once he begins that journey, something surprising happens. He no longer needs women to be understandable. He doesn't need them to make sense or fit into a box. He doesn't need to label her moods or decode her silences. Instead, he learns to sit with not knowing, to listen with his whole being, to witness without interruption. That's not weakness, that's power, the kind of power that doesn't shout or control, but holds space. A man who can do that isn't trapped by the curse of over-understanding. He's freed by his own willingness to grow. Because the truth is, women aren't puzzles. They're not codes to crack. They're human beings with oceans inside them. Grief, joy, fire, tenderness, all in motion. To meet them honestly, a man must first meet himself honestly. He must face the places in him that feel unlovable, the parts he hid to survive, the questions he was too afraid to ask. And when he does that, she can feel it. She can feel the difference between a man who wants to know her for who she is and one who wants to understand her to control her. One feels like presence, the other feels like pressure. So maybe Jung wasn't warning men about women at all. Maybe he was warning them about the danger of avoiding themselves, of building identities around being the guy who gets it while secretly staying disconnected. Because the most dangerous illusion isn't about her. It's the belief that you're already awake, already wise, already whole. That's what keeps people stuck. That's what turns relationships into performance, love into calculation. But when a man lets that illusion fall apart, when he stops pretending to be above confusion, he becomes more trustworthy, not just to others, but to himself. He can sit in the unknown. He can hear, "I don't know what I need right now," without panic. He can feel rejection without collapse. He can see complexity and still stay. And that's rare, but it's also magnetic, because women don't need to be understood. They need to be felt, respected, seen as equals in the mystery. And when a man can stand in that kind of presence, when he's rooted in his own soul and not in fantasy, the dynamic shifts. Love becomes less about possession and more about connection. Attraction becomes less about escape and more about return. That's the gift Jung was pointing to, not in learning to understand women as an endpoint, but in allowing that quest to turn you back toward yourself. Not every man will take that path. It requires more courage than charm, more honesty than cleverness. But for the ones who do, it changes everything. Because at the heart of it, the curse of understanding women isn't about women. It's about a man's refusal to meet his own depths. Break that pattern, and what felt like a curse becomes a doorway, not into her, but into truth.